mucus-free. We are mucus-free.
All right, greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Professor Spira here coming at you with a Q&A session. Q&A number 13. After 3 years, 4 years, however many years it's been since I've actually did a live Q&A. And I'm going to sign off, say bye to the brothers and sisters here on the Instagram Live. Tune in, hit the link, tune in to the main show here on YouTube. So, how's it been going in your world? How is things been going in the pandemic universe? There's some times we're having, some interesting and trying, but also could be very productive times right now. And that's what I'm trying to do, be very, very productive during this period of time. And as I'm sure you've been able to see, been coming out with a whole lot of new content lately, and I kind of trying to do a 30-day YouTube challenge where I, at least for 30 days straight, have, whether I do a new video or a live stream or something, I'm coming out and working on videos, getting a lot of feedback, a lot of interesting analysis on what kinds of things people are talking about and thinking about, and what folks respond to, what they don't respond to, where folks' headspaces are at. And, kind of plugging back in, because I was really into that back in like 2015, 16, 17. In the past couple years, I've been focusing on other areas of mucus-free life and music and art and working with the band, the Fire Music Project. And so my finger was still on the pulse, but it was really on the pulse of the mucus-free community because it grew. We have one now. Back when we got this started, there was no community yet. And so we really worked very hard to foster mucus-free community. And now we got some brothers and sisters that's not only on board, but's been on board for some years. And for us in the Mucus Diet Healing System, we're looking for that longevity, looking for folks that's been around for a few minutes. And because it's easy for folks to jump on, jump off in a short period of time, part of my mission has been to provide information, educational resources, community ties to plug into the vibration, not just the information by itself, but to be able to actually plug into that vibration, which is so important when you're trying to go down this path, because it's a different path. It just is. It's different from if you identify as a vegan or plant-based or raw foodist or fruitarian or all of those isms. Like, this is not an ism. This is a practice. The mucusless diet healing system is a practice and an art form. It's about the action, and the analysis that we do enables the practice. So we analyze it in the way that artists analyze their art form, or musicians analyze the art of music, so that they can do better at their art form. They can go to higher levels of mastery. And that's how we treat the Mucus Diet Healing System. The analysis that we do is not a reductivist type of analysis. We're not trying to connect it in with some pre-existing bunch of information that doesn't make sense or that has a lot of flaws in it. You have to start somewhere. So we start with Mucus Diet Healing System by Professor Arnold Ehret, and build from there. You do have to have a starting point. You just can't go from nowhere and just, and we've seen movements like that out here in the health stuff where people try to start off with this ethereal, this in the ether. They're just, well, this is this concept, and then it's like it doesn't do anything or go anywhere. You know, so you got to start somewhere. And so we start with Professor Arnold Ehret's Mucus Diet Healing System because he tapped into some universal principles about how the human body operates in a paradigm that is unlike what's out there. You know, it's not the standard, you know, the nutritional concepts and theories, and people try to put that on the Mucus diet. And it's not that you can't. I mean, you can bring in, if you're hell-bent on doing it, you can bring in science, because what people end up doing with the science anyway is use it to propel their narrative. And that's one reason I don't even generally try to go down that path. Because we can think for ourselves. We can think organically. Self-experience. To me, that's a higher level. And so what happens, and what has happened for years and years, when it's time to sell something, and a lot of these things, when people's concept of nutrition is based on marketing, and marketers that are out for blood money, you know, that are out to suck you dry, that are, you know, not honorable, there's some honorable salesmen, marketers, and there's some that's not. And in the field of health, selling people food, the diets, that kind of stuff, we've had in the medical industry, marketing that goes with it. Anytime you see an ad for pharmaceutical medication, anytime you see an ad for some goofy clown pops up trying to sell you some pus, we're talking about ruthless marketing. And there was a video a while back that I did a live stream where I was looking at old commercials, and you go back to the 1950s, and those commercials, what are they doing? They're using, because people haven't went to school for nutrition, but it sounds good, so they use that to market to people, to hoodwink, to say this white bread, and this is what they do there. This white bread is the most nutritious and delicious white bread. If you don't feed your child this white bread, they will not grow up properly. They will have bone problems. They're not going to get all of the iron that they need. That's marketing. And unless you understand that, you can't even really defend yourself from it. And so every time when somebody comes up and they're trying to talk to me about, well, that's not scientific, it's not been proven, and it's not, it's like, I know that for most people that talk like that, they're learning their nutrition from TV commercials, from Oprah show or Dr. Oz or something, pop type of psychology and pop diet and all that kind of stuff. It's about marketing. It's about superfoods. Who invented that? Superfood. What do you think is, and I'm kind of stealing this from my man Owen, but what do you think is more healthy? If you go down and get you some blueberries, some fresh blueberries down the street that was locally grown, or you get some, acai super powder, acai berry powder, or some kind of, strange fruit from the Himalayan mountains that has been prayed over by shamans. And I mean, it's marketing. It's what they're doing to you. This whole superfood thing is straight marketing. There's no such thing as a superfood. That was a way to sell you food and fruit or things. And instead of selling you, like you going down the street and buying some blueberries for $10, they're selling you something that they convince to you is more nutritious that's from some faraway land. Faraway land, it's special. $100, it can be yours. It'd have been better to get the blueberries. Go get the organic grapes. Marketing. And what do they do when they want to sell you something? What do? They start bringing out the nutrition theories because that's the orientation. People have been oriented into that paradigm and taught that paradigm fundamentally based on marketing. Fundamentally. Because most people growing up, well, I didn't hear about these I learned about these nutritional concepts watching commercials, and especially breakfast commercials, cereal and milk, talking about get this milk and then the calcium, and it's part of a balanced breakfast. How is Lucky Charms, Cocoa Puffs? My favorite was chocolate. I forget the name of it. The chocolate vampire. What's his name? Chocolate Vampire Man. Whatever that count. The Chocula. That's what. Those commercials all said part of a balanced breakfast. What the hell does that mean? Part of a balanced breakfast. That's called marketing. But you talking to somebody on the street talking about the Mucus diet isn't sciencey enough. There's not enough science over here. But you believe in balanced breakfast because you watched Tony the Tiger talk about a balanced breakfast. You didn't learn balanced breakfast in a lecture hall looking at copious amounts of studies. You learned it from Tony the Tiger. You learned it from Lucky Charms guy. You learned it from Captain Crunch. You learn these concepts. I'm here to try to break out of that. Break you out, break me out. You got to break out of this. That paradigm, that entire paradigm to me can be put in the dustbin of history. Let's start over again. Now I know people don't like that. A lot of people have invested a lot. I mean, you're talking to marketers, you're talking to folks in the industry, you're talking about folks that been to school for, nutritional concepts. But at the end of the day, if you line up 10 people that went to school for nutrition, I bet not 2 of them agree. So if you can't have a so-called science where everybody's on the same page and they agreeing, because you'll have one nutritionist talking about carnivore diet, another one talking about a balanced diet, another one talking about vegetarianism, another one talking about veganism, another one talking about plant-based-ism, another one talking about keto, another one talking about Atkins diet, and they will all bring in so much evidence, so many peer-reviewed studies to back up their beliefs and what they want to market to you. And so what I'm saying is, let's skip over that. Let's skip that part of it and let's get into people's experiences. Let's get into the actions. I shouldn't be here. If those commercials were accurate, I would be dead. Because I haven't had a balanced breakfast in 18 years. I should be falling over, if the nutrition theories are correct and if the marketing was correct. Alas, we've disproven it. Over and over and over again, those of us who have been on this path continue to disprove the marketing, the so-called science, and all that kind of stuff. And so, coming at you because I'm saying, I want to see more people really really get into that, really investigate the paradigm shift. Because I won't just say, oh, you just believe this, believe what I believe. I'm not saying that. I'm always going to encourage you to study. I'm always going to encourage you to look at the history of the protein theory, look at the history of the calorie theory, see if it makes sense to you once you look at the original documents, the people that coined the term, the original books that they're from, the original resources and studies that were done in which these concepts emerged. When I did that research for myself, I was dumbfounded by how idiotic these initial theories were. And they are the theories that are the bedrock and the foundation of modern day nutritional concepts, nutritional science. And I'm saying it's time for a good old-fashioned Thomas Kuhn paradigm shift. Time for that revolution, because this thing out here is not working. You go on McDonald's website and they have a nutrition calculator. They got things of nutritional facts on McDonald's website. There's nothing nutritious about that. But that's the marketing. That's the market. They got you. They got all of us. They got me too. You know, growing up, they got us all. You're sitting there eating because they're marketing things to you that kill you, that you don't need. But they say you need it, and they know it's addictive. And so milk, it does a body good. Milk does a body death. Trademark Professor Spira. I put that one on. Milk does a body death. You know, I mean, but they had beef. It's what's for dinner. I grew up to that one. Beef, it's what's for dinner. Really? Why? Doesn't matter. It's catchy. It worked. Beef, it's what's for dinner. As people were starting to transition, every time people start to transition away in large numbers from dead animal eating, you see a ramp in that type of advertising. They get serious all of a sudden. Pork, the other white meat. Got milk? Beef, it's what's for dinner. You know, they all of a sudden they're like, whoa, hey, don't go over there. Now because too many people started to go, now what they did is let's create and jump on the bandwagon of the fake meat. And let's make it really filthy. And let's put all kinds of processed crap in there. And then so as people start to move away from the dead animal flesh, we're going to catch them right here. You're like, okay, oh, you don't want the beef anymore? All right, here's a little impossible burger for you. Yeah, be careful with that. We just heard a testimonial the other day in our Wednesday, every Wednesday at 8 o'clock Eastern time, we have Mucus-free meetup. And we had a good testimonial of of someone that had a little impossible, and it didn't end well. And you know they backed. It's fine, but what happens when you start to go down the wrong paths like that? In terms, you got to be real conscientious about your transition, the choices that you make for your transition. That's part of the art form. The choices that you make, your transition, will define that process. And there's certain transitional things that, you know, because I've tried a lot of stuff over the years. I'd be like, well, I wonder what that would do. And okay, try it. And it's like, what's this? And, you know, they come out with new things, and I'll try stuff. But then there's certain things that I'm like, no, I'm not touching that. That'll be a bad day if I mess with that. So no, sir. And you learn, and usually the way that you can really do that is when you look at the ingredients, and if it's got million ingredients, and most of them you can't read. Don't even think about it. Put it back. Don't even think about it. But when you look at it, if it just has a few ingredients and it's like, oh, all right, it might be something that you can experiment with and deal with. Because I'm an advocate of real transition, of people really eating hearty meals when it's time, to not just try to eat nothing but fruit super quick. I'm a staunch advocate of that. So, but that's what's really important, is that transitional methodology. And let's see, where is that thing? All right, so what I'm bringing up now, that this reminded me of. So if you were in the Eric group, you would perhaps have seen, let's see if I can bring this up. There we go. Okay. All right. So this tomorrow, I'll make it official probably later tonight, but I'm planning tomorrow at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to do a live stream where I analyze and discuss our brother avocado, and we're going to dissect his situation. He went from a staunch raw foodist, hardcore raw food guy that could sit down and have a meal of 6 avocados to this. And I ask everybody which would be the best the best image to use, and I think I'm gonna probably go with this one. The ones that got the most were the ones where I'm looking at the side, and I like that one, but I will probably go with this one because this is kind of the classic. People know the Sonic, this is that. But and actually, before, because he's a famous blogger from doing his eating and stuff, and if you've never heard of him, you can look him up to be ready for tomorrow, so you can see what we're talking about. But he actually used to, I think he was in some forum, some Facebook forum that I was in, is where he would promote his videos. It might have been the old Dr. Morris forum, but I distinctly remember him posting a video where he was talking about something he was going through, and I had seen some of his videos, and I used to tell myself, like, this dude is not going to make it because he is not transitioning at all. He'd never even heard of a transition. And so then I actually posted up a message, was like, hey man, you probably need to transition. Check out the Mucus Diet Healing System. That didn't happen, obviously. But yeah. So this will be tomorrow, 6 o'clock. We're going to get busy with that, and that will be interesting. Be interesting to have a little discussion and a case study, because there's a number of these that there's a lot of these case studies, unfortunately, of people that failed to transition. They just didn't do it. They didn't transition. They hardcore raw foodist or hardcore trying to do a bunch of fasting and coming out the gate with the 40-day water fast with no transition, no cleansing, no enemas. And we always say transition, transition, transition. That's why we say Mucus' Diet Healing System is the best thing that you can do in terms of diet. And it's a tool that you can use to manifest whatever you want, whatever direction you want to go in and aspire to. If you want to aspire to being 100% raw, you want to aspire to being 100% mucus-free, or aspire to one day be able to comfortably sustain on fruit, then those are all things that you can do rationally within the context of the Mucus Diet Healing System and the tools offered inside the system. But then other people just want to feel better, or just want to be able to have natural bowel movements again, or just be able to get rid of their cold and flu-like symptoms, or chronic headaches, or chronic bronchitis, or be able to get their kidneys filtering again and functioning, or heal endocrine issues. And so, healing system, that's what it's saying within that context, and it's expandable. Bring in other other naturopathic modalities within the context of the mucusless diet, and that's the key that I'm always trying to encourage people to understand, is to bring things into mucus, from that filter. It's because there's a very distinctive filter and paradigm, and when people try to dib and dab and mix and match from other things without really mastering and understanding that initial mucusless diet information, then people run into some serious issues. And so that is part of what Arnold Ehret calls the tragedy of nutrition. So yeah. Let's see here. I want to say what's up to everybody in the chat real quick. Give me a moment to bring this up so that you guys know that I am live. You don't think I'm shucking and jiving. Let's see here. We got, okay, what's going on? Gabriel, yeah, we're going to get to that, talking about the building muscle, those concepts. As usual, we're going to talk about it in a different way than everybody else does. It's a different paradigm, but physiologically, we're going to get into that. Alpha says, does one get a certificate upon completion of the e-course? Yes, you get. There's a certificate of completion that you receive once you complete the Mucusless Diet Healing System e-course. Yes. Raphael says, organic seedless grapes versus non-organic seeded grapes. Now, I would go the organic. I'm not phobic. Some people get real phobic of every little thing like that if it doesn't have seeds and that kind of stuff. You always get the best that you can get. But in that case, if they was both of them there, and if they put it like this, if price wasn't a factor, because price is always a factor too, because if the non-organic seeded grapes are 89 cents a pound and the seedless organic grapes are 30, or not 30, but $3 or $4 a pound, I'm going with the whatever the cheapest is on that. And when you start GMO, my thing is, does it eliminate? That's the paradigm. That's the difference. That's the paradigm with us, is we're concerned with elimination and doing so whilst not leaving waste behind, leaving the least amount of residue and stuff behind. And so when you're talking about things that have been sprayed, depends on how sensitive you are. If you're earlier in your journey on the mucusless diet, I wouldn't worry as much about it. As you get more sensitive physiologically, you'll feel the pesticides. You'll eat some fruit, then all of a sudden you'll have some anxiety, or you'll kind of feel off, and then the next day you have some organic fruit and it doesn't happen, then that's telling you at that point, like, okay, now is definitely a time when I need to be focused on as much organic as possible. But yeah, as far as the seeding stuff, I mean, I try to get seeded as much as I can with watermelons and I haven't in where I live, I haven't seen seeded grapes unless once a year we have Concord grapes will come down from Michigan. Other than that, and they'll be seeded, and they're even bringing some of those out that aren't seeded anymore. But we don't even have the globes where I'm at. I mean, I haven't seen seeded grapes in a couple years. I mean, they just don't have them around here at all. So, like I said, you do what you can with whatever you got, and I tend to go for sweetness. So I'm testing out and looking for, is this sweet or not? Because that's another way to ask the question. If you had a sweet non-organic grape and a terrible tasting organic, I'm going with the sweet non-organic and wash that puppy off. Or if I know I'm in a sensitive period, then I'm just going to forego that and either get something else that's organic or get something else, get something with a hard shell on it or something, so. But my thing is, I don't like to worry about that kind of stuff and be in this state of anxiety and worry, because what's happening now, again, when people start trying to bring all of these different, you bringing in influences from all these different places, you end up not being able to eat anything because they don't align, and a good example of that, kind of the Dr. Sebi and mucusless diet, because of that, the hybrid theory on the Sebi side, you try to bring that into the mucusless diet healing system, you are not left with anything to eat. And so you kind of got to decide what you're going to do, because there is people that end up being very unhappy because there's like, man, I can't, because if you're looking for, some of that stuff is just not here. I mean, if you had to dedicate yourself to that paradigm, you have to move. You can't live where you're at unless you're already someplace great. But if you want to get into that, be real hardcore with the hybrid theory and really try to follow that path, you're going to have to roll. And that'll be a separate video. We can revisit some of the Dr. Sebi discussion, which we had years ago. It was one of the I think the Q&A number 3 is one of my most watched videos on the channel, and that's the one where we discuss Dr. Sebi a little bit and that, and I wanted to revisit some of the things that he said. He's got the great quote where he's talking about Arnold Ehret. That video is out there. You could, if you like Dr. Sebi Arnold Ehret into YouTube, that'll come up, where he says that Arnold Ehret is the only man that he agreed with, even though they have different paradigms and disagreements on things. He was the only guy that he agreed with. And let's see here, what's going on? Last call, Richard, go to Whole Foods store. Yeah, Whole Foods, man, they were playing games, man. Whole Foods acted like they were gonna make the prices cheaper for a minute. So for like 5 minutes, you went into the store. When Amazon bought them, you went to Whole Foods, and it was like, wow, the prices. But then all of a sudden, they actually fooled me the once, because I didn't know. Once upon a time, they didn't have conventional. That was the first time I even saw that. The term conventional was when Whole Foods started to have it. But that fooled me at first, because when I looked down, I saw it, and I was like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that this is only, these grapes are only 99 cents? And then under it, I saw, wait a minute, conventional. Then I looked at the brand. I was like, well, this is the same exact grapes that they got over at Meyer. I mean, and it's cheaper there. It's like even then, it's cheaper at Meyer. And so, but then after the little okey doke, they, Whole Foods, boy, boom. And then now it's back to whole paycheck. I mean, just the prices are terrible again, And so there's a few things I get. I go there and get a few things here and there, but I can't get everything. That's not a one-stop shop type of spot unless you're well endowed with a nice job and a little nice little chunk of change in your pocket. But yeah. Let's see. Richard says, the diet is one thing, but it is very difficult to convince people to do enemas. Pharmacists here don't even know what it is. Wow. And people are disgusted by the sheer fact of cleaning the bum. Yeah. Now, Richard, I've yet to remind where are you at? Oh, you said okay, here in France. Yeah. And that's interesting because I would think that people in France would be a little bit more open-minded in terms of that kind of. But as I think about it, I haven't heard a whole lot of what's going on in France in terms of Mucus diet practitioners or anything like that, or raw foodism or that kind of stuff. There's a huge followings in Italy and Spain, and Russia starting to hit Germany. But yeah, as I think about it, I don't hear a whole lot about France. That's interesting. But yeah, it's a hard one sometimes to get folks to get into that, and I would have to learn more about the culture and kind of where the folks are at mentally to come up with a little marketing strategy or something to hit them, because here in the States, the mucoid plaque discussions are pretty good, really just showing the nasty filth that's in the colon. So I got that colonoscopy video, that people like that thing, even though someone was watching it and eating at the same time, and they did a Instagram story, and it was fun. It was cute though. It was trying to eat while watching me talking about the colonoscopy and the slime and the intestines. It was pretty good. Eat like a gorilla diet, 10 pounds of kale a day, and you will gain muscle. Let's see here. And so I want to get to these other main questions. What is going on? Rachel, what is going on? So I appreciate everybody being on here. It is a lot of fun when we can just hang out a little bit and kind of chill a little more informally, because with experimenting with the different formats with the videos, trying to do some videos shorter, some longer. A lot of them are done with the intention of having people, in addition to you, also having new people see them, and so formatted in a way that people who have no clue who I am, don't care who I am, but might care about what I have to say. Try to format the video like that. And I'm learning how to do these things. I'm actually enrolled in a course right now that is been very great course, and been enjoying myself in there, learning a lot. So let's get to the promised questions a while back on my Instagram. Find me on Instagram, prof.spira on Instagram. Different content there than everywhere else. All my other online properties. We got daily inspirational quotes coming out there with the memes, and I'm doing stories now. That was something people had to get me into, the Instagram stories. I wasn't real hip to it for a while, but I'm finally into it now, and they're kind of fun. So yeah. So all right. So Living Alkaline asks, I would love to hear about your daily routine and how you stay and look so positive and happy. Well, I thank you so much, Living Alkaline, for the question. And I'll do a little overview real quick. And the thing is, with these kind of questions, you usually kind of break them down into 3 different levels. And so there's my best days, an average day, and then the bad days. And I'm not one of those really strict routine people. Some people are, and I love that. People that when it works for them, where they that almost like military, at this time they're up every day and they do their stretches and they do this and, like clockwork. I'm just not one of them people, because I have to have freedom. I have to be able to flow. And sometimes I need to stay up late to do something. Sometimes I might feel like going to bed early, and I don't have to sleep a whole lot compared to other people. I didn't know that until I hear how long people sleep, and blows my mind, because to me that just sounds like a long time. But basically, I'll get up, and at this point in my life, I've worked to have my own business, and as an artist and musician, I'm able to make my own schedule. So I like to naturally wake up. So most of the time I don't have to set an alarm to get up. I schedule my day so that I don't have to do that. Now, if like a couple year or two ago when I was teaching at university, that's a different, that was sort of, I had to get up on the days as I had an early class. And so, but that is something that's rarer and rarer in my life. And I just really love being able to just sleep as long as my body wants and get up. Now, if my body was the kind of body that wanted to sleep really long, then I probably wouldn't be able to do that. I'd have to have a little more discipline there. But since I sleep about 4 to 5 hours, some nights 3 hours. It depends on what I'm eating or what's going on. But 4 to 5 hours on average is what I'll sleep in a night. I've done a couple videos on sleep before. I don't advocate that. I don't advocate people not sleeping or sleeping less, and I don't advocate any certain length of time to sleep. I advocate sleeping as long as you need for your physiology and for your elimination within the constraints of your life and your work schedule, your school schedule, your business schedule, or whatever it is that you're into. Then that has to factor in terms of your rest. But it's very important to rest, and it's important to have your meditation time, your downtime, active recovery, which I need to even sometimes do more, because when I get in a mode of really working hard, then I can kind of exhaust myself just emotionally, because I'm a creator, and that's what I love to create. And sometimes if you're doing a whole lot of creating, at some point that energy is like you got to rest. And once you sort of like let go of the force that's running through you just for a moment to relax, all of a sudden you're like, and then, but you got to go through that process. And so that's something I'm still working on to develop, to really master the art of the active recovery. I usually do what I call shutting it down, which means that it's usually when I'm fasting. When I fast, I like to shut it down. I turn off the phone. I get off social media. I turn off the computer. I don't just I've turned off the electricity in my house before for a couple days as a part of a fast, just where I just don't want nothing to touch me, or I'll go out in the woods, go camping, something, you know. So, but anyway, back to the daily routine. So, all right, so I get up, and I might get, in my times I get up range from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., you know, just depending on what's going on and what's happening. So my best day would be getting up at like 6 a.m., being at the gym by 7. So I get up, drink some lemon water, do a little bit of stretching. But if I'm going to the gym, I'm usually at the gym about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And my gym routine is nothing special. There's better people to follow in terms of really advanced and sophisticated exercise programs. I just do what I like to do that just makes me feel good. And so I go to Planet Fitness, and I sit down on the massage chair for 10 minutes, and I just kind of meditate, get in my little vibe. Then I go and stretch for about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. I'll go through my stretches. And I'll have an audio book going, or some kind of inspirational or educational kind of things in my headphones rolling. Then there's this abs exercise program that I had bought online that I like. They're doing a lot of planking kind of things and that type of stuff, and so I'll do that. Then get on the elliptical machine for about 25 to 30 minutes. Then I'll go and lift, and I pretty much just kind of do everything. Because I'm not lifting real hard, so I don't have like an arms and chest and shoulder day and a legs day. I just pretty much touch everything, because I just want to get the blood rolling. You know, I just want to just get the physical movement going. I don't want to be sore, because I experienced that already when I was a varsity football player. I played football for 6 years, junior high and high school, and once I got into especially high school and we were working out 3 days a week hard, and you're just sore all the time, and I don't like that. I don't want to be walking around sore all the time. But that's me. I'm not an athlete. I'm not trying to impress people. I'm just like in terms of strength, I just want to feel good. And one thing I always think is when I'm in there, people would, I'm bigger than a lot of people in there, and so that's always amusing to me, because people think, oh, you're gonna be this little tiny little guy, and that's another topic for another story too, or another video on that whole thing, or maybe we'll talk about that in a minute when we start talking about gaining muscle and stuff. But so that's the workout routine. So I'll work out, then go home, and then it's about time to have my fruit meal. So I hit the fruit meal in the afternoon, mono fruit, some type of, could be a melon, could be some pineapple, could be some grapes, could be several apples, melon, watermelon, something, just mono fruit in the afternoon. Then I'll start working on projects and videos and practicing music and whatever I'm into at that time, studying things if I'm doing that. Then around 6 o'clock or 7 is when I'll try to probably have a salad, my vegetable meal, which always has a raw combination salad. And I might have some kind of steamed vegetables or something like that along with it. And then I'm just working. Because most of the day, I don't really have a lot of downtime until once I'm shutting it down for the day at the end. Then I'm like, okay, I'm when my work starts to get compromised and I'm not producing and creating at the level that I want to, then that's when I shut it down in the evening. But I don't have a set time. And so I'm just basically working until I notice that I'm not being as productive. The quality of what I'm doing is going down, or if I'm studying, my retention, I can feel when my retention isn't what it should be. And so I've learned to not push through that. Back when I was in school, I had to push through that. You couldn't take a break. You had to keep studying, keep pushing through it, and just didn't matter. You just had to. But now that's not really healthy, I don't think, to do that. So once I get to that point, okay, I shut it down, and then, I go and kind of lay down. I might watch, a little something on my Netflix or whatever, just kind of decompress, and then go on ahead and pass out, fall asleep because I hate the experience of like laying there and you can't fall asleep. So I don't do that. I don't have that experience because I'm always, I usually when I fall asleep, it just happens. Like it's just time for me to fall asleep and I'm ready. I'm just laying there. But I never try to fall asleep unless, when I do, it usually is not good. It's not a good situation. And those situations, sometimes I end up having to just stay up all night. Like if I have something early in the morning and my schedule isn't really on that vibe, then I'll have to just stay up, do whatever that is for that next day, and kind of get back on a cycle. But overall, that's the best day. That's sort of what my day looks like at its best, when it's its most productive. But then there's always curveballs. Like today, there's always one, how they say, it's always something. So I had got a flat tire in my van, or it's a slow leak, is a nail in the tire. And so I went to go, they had to order a couple days ago, I had to get tire ordered. I went down there today and I can't find the tire key. So they weren't able to change it. So that was hours of my day where I went to go down there and do that and didn't have, and then so I got my tire, but I don't have it on there. So now I got to contact dealers and, so there's life stuff. And I share that story just so folks, we're all trudging through this thing, dealing with vehicles, because that's never smooth, dealing with whatever, just life stuff. And so that can definitely mess up the role and mess up the vibe. But, as far as staying happy, I talked about that a little bit in a recent video where we talked about the law of attraction. And it's a decision. For me, it's a decision. I just make that decision. I prefer being happy. I'm weird, maybe, one of them weird people, but I just rather be happy. And so my mindset, I'm focused on that vibration. Now, but to get a little deeper on what happiness is, it doesn't mean at all that I push things out. And I think one of the reasons that I'm as happy as I am is because years ago, when I started practicing Sedona method and other things, I actively and consciously used those release techniques and the neuro-linguistic programming methodologies, that kind of stuff, psychology thing. I actively use those methods to let go of negativity, and I allowed myself to be exposed to the negativity of the universe and the world. So there was a point in my life where I opened myself up to it, where most people run away from it. I opened myself up to it, and I've actually did that when I was a really young child, because I went through some tough things with, losing family members and my mom at a young age. And one of my coping mechanisms that put me on the spiritual path that I'm on is I opened myself up to the worst of humanity. And with the Sedona method and with my studies, I learned how to be able to let that go. And that's something people don't understand when I start talking, when I go to a protest, and some people have such a negative connotation around that, and because they're projecting onto it where they're at, and they don't understand that for me, when I go to a protest, that feels like church. That feels like the feeling that other people get at church. I'll get that there, or, wherever I go. I kind of bring that vibe that's in me, and that's part of my philosophy. You bring that where that should be inside of you, and you bring that with you wherever you go. And so, but that, I'm inspired by people that are trying to fight for their freedom. At the end of the day, it's fundamental for me. I love freedom. And by any means necessary, freedom, let's roll. By any rational means necessary, I add the rational in there, freedom. And so I like to see that. That makes me happy. Working toward my own freedom makes me happy. And, I love what I do, being an artist, a musician, helping people learn about the Mucus diet. And I'm grateful. That gratitude element that people always talk about, is a real thing. I just usually don't talk about it. But because I try to express, instead of saying that I'm grateful, I just like to, I feel like I don't have to say it. You can feel it. You should be able to feel that from me. And that's part of that happiness. It's like, instead of saying it, because what I've seen is people say it, but they're not feeling it. They're trying to say it, and it's just like, I'm grateful for this and that, and gratitude and this. I'm like, man, you ain't feeling one word you just said. You just said a bunch of words you read out of a book on gratitude, and you don't feel one of those words. And which, that's part of their journey. My thing with that, though, is that's what I hand them a Mucus diet book. Clean out your colon, clean out your intestines, and put down the other books, and then and let that information come to you organically. That consciousness, you can tune into that frequency without reading all those books. You can tune into it once you are clean enough. So anyway, I hope that answers that question. I usually answer these fairly comprehensively. So I appreciate that question. Thank you very much. Here is the next question. How has your diet affected creativity as a musician? Please. And Isabella, thank you so much for your question. And the diet transformed my life as a musician, my life as an artist, as a creative person. It enabled me to open up barriers and things that were holding me back internally and mental blockages. It just bursted all those down without going through a whole lot of different self-help kinds of things. Now, I did, read a lot of books and that kind of stuff, but once I got into the Mucus diet, it was like, it just blew all that stuff away. So a lot of the psychological kind of things that you try to do in some of the self-help paradigms, it just blew that out. And it was like, this is who you are. This is who you are, really opening me up to who I am, and that kind of inspiring me to bring up and share with you. I don't know if you have or haven't seen this, if I can find it. Hold on one second. Okay, hold on a second. I want to bring up this video of me when I was just getting started with the mucusless diet. And so I'm going to play a clip from the e-course, but this video is also available on the channel. But here we go.
Path. The next significant mark was when Brother Aaron and I started a band, and that is where Professor Spira, as you see him right now, came about.
Trombone major Michael Goki likes to take his music and his message to places most jazz musicians don't venture. In addition to music, Michael's interested in healthy living. That's why he wanted to play in the smoke-free, alcohol-free atmosphere of UC's Alley Cat Cafe.
I practice something called the Mucusless Diet Healing System by Professor Arnold Ehret, and I've been practicing that diet about 2 years, and it really changed my life. You know, I was kind of on the other side of things, and now I'm really, you know, focused on this thing, and you know, this gives me an opportunity to promote, you know, health and spread the awareness of this diet, because a lot of people don't know about this, and the information I have could be very, very beneficial to a lot of people. So any opportunity I get to expose folks to this this diet is what I feel like what I'm trying to do.
Michael said some of the other members of his jazz group practice this mucus-free diet. Michael said he lost 120 pounds.
Mucus-free diet.
We picked Michael as the subject of our Uptown Profile, a regular feature we are starting today, about students who are doing amazing things.
So after practicing,
So the reason I brought that up is because I've been getting to being a little nostalgic. That's how I got the Q&A kind of up, because I was thinking back about those old Q&A days. But when I look back at that time period, it was such a productive time that really shaped me as an artist, as a musician, and as an aspiring academic, for lack of a better, somebody that just intensively studies all the time and all subjects. That was the period. I mean, that's really when I felt like I was coming into my own and really understanding who I was, and you can see, like, right there, it was clicking in. Like, this is what I'm gonna do. I've been practicing the diet at that point for 2 years, and now I'm committed. And you hear what I said back then, and you see that I'm saying the same. I'm saying the same stuff. It's the same thing. Now I've changed a lot and transformed, and grew, older. But I was a baby Spira, baby Spira. But that was just such a creative period, and what came out at that point, and I would love to have more people watch some of those older videos that we have up, the old Breatharian Ensemble stuff, and there's so much creativity that was happening as a group of people that were all just plugged into one another and going on this journey, not knowing where it's going, but knowing that this felt good and it felt right. And so when you put yourself around that kind of energy as a musician, I mean, that's one thing. It's some of the best advice that I ever got as a musician, was put yourself around better musicians. Play as often as you can with people that are better than you. And at that time, I was constantly trying to play every opportunity I could. If there was a stage and musicians playing, I showed up with my trombone, and I'm trying to go in there to do some playing, and it's that obsession. Like, I like being obsessed with whatever it is that I'm into. It's hard for me sometimes to relate to people that aren't obsessed with something. that's productive. And I encourage people to learn that. And that's even a pedagogical question that I have as to how can you learn that. Probably the best way is to put yourself around other people that think like that and that are like that. And it's kind of that osmosis dynamic where you feel it, you see it all the time, you see what that is. Studying artists, great historical figure artists, and their mentalities, seeing how they, story of a Charlie Parker that was 15, 16 years old, and he got embarrassed at a jam session, so he spent the next however long it was, a year or 2 years or something, but he was practicing every day for like 15, 16 hours a day. That's being obsessed. John Coltrane, already the best saxophonist in the world, he couldn't stop practicing. He'd be on the stage, play an hour-long solo, walk off the stage still playing, go into the bathroom still playing. Obsession. Being obsessed with something productive. You give yourself, I've been around a number of different musicians that say, if you really want that, if you want that thing, then you have to give yourself to that. And that's part of that getting possessed. The obsession, another part of it, the way you could look at it is being obsessed or being possessed by the spirit of the universe. And the diet helps you remove the obstruction so that the creativity can flow unencumbered. And that is the key. That is the removal of obstruction is what it's all about. So whether you're talking about painting, what do you do if you're doing, if you're learning the art of painting? At some point you got to work to work out the obstruction in your methods to get to the point where you can you've trained your limbs and your mind to be able to manifest what you want, or at least get as close to manifesting what it is you're imagining. As a musician, when you're sitting there practicing a song or a lick or whatever it is you're working on, a scale, for hours and hours, you are removing the obstruction. Removing the obstruction. But what happens when you are cleaner is you can advance faster because you've already removed a lot of that obstruction in the body, so you can remove the musical obstruction faster. At least that was my experience. You remove it a little bit faster. So you can just keep on, keep on rolling. And then, like I said, with creativity, it just opened up. And I want to bring up, since we're going down memory lane,
all right,
this I love. So this is called R.I.P. Rest in Peace, Mr. Food Pyramid. And this was, when was this? Let me see if it even says what year. This was uploaded 2000. Okay, this was recorded in 2007. So let's play this. But I play this because I remember where I was at mentally when this came about. Because once I was fasting, Brother Air was fasting, and to set the stage, we're in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is like one of the most conservative, one of the most constipated cities in the world. And we set up this festival and had our band playing there, Breatharian Ensemble, and we're there, like the people in the audience, you can't see them, but we're right outside of a baseball game is happening behind us, and a football game, professional football game is happening in front of us, two big stadiums. So there's like baseball fans and football fans that are kind of walking by. And in the middle of all, and this is way before no one was talking about veganism and plant-based on TV. None of that was happening yet. So that was, now if you did something like this, people have been exposed to the idea of not eating dead animal flesh. Back then, that was like an alien talking to them. So with that background in mind, here's watch this.
All right, my man, what exactly is this thing right here?
I hear you. What's up, bro?
What exactly is that thing down there?
What is it?
Yeah.
It's a casket.
Why is there a casket?
Why is that casket?
Represent death.
All right, that's good enough for me.
Represents death.
We are gathered here today to lay to rest a dear, dear, dear friend. Someone who has been with us for a long, long time, for over 3 decades. Somebody that we depended on, somebody whom we love. I am talking about Mr. Food Pyramid, ladies and gentlemen. Born in 1974, Mr. Food Pyramid has made a wonderful contribution to physiological enslavement everywhere. In an age of incivility, turmoil, death, murder, destruction, and disease, Mr. Food Pyramid has helped comfort us in our ignorance. In the 1960s, we chanted, "We shall overcome by any means necessary." But ladies and gentlemen, we are still servants to a wicked master who revels in our suffering. Mr. Food Pyramid told us that it is okay to eat a piece of chicken. Go ahead and eat that fish and that hot dog and that cheese. Go ahead, eat that steak, brother. Would you like fries with that? He was such a good friend, ladies and gentlemen. He always made us feel good about ourselves and our diets. Mr. Food Pyramid will surely be missed. So today we bury Mr. Food Pyramid, and may he rest in peace, in pieces.
So I think that's pretty creative. And then one thing I thought of, because how many people, is the one thing that you can be, and this is a secret for any artist out here, you can be on the cutting edge and incredibly original by incorporating and being inspired by the mucus-free paradigm and the mucus diet and everything that goes with it, because nobody's making art like that. So nobody made, I can guarantee you, no one else on earth has done a funeral for the food pyramid. But that is what I love about art. You can't, you're not going to do that in a paper presentation, in an academic kind of thing, or it's like that comes out of that tradition. We're coming out of a particular jazz tradition, that an avant-garde and free jazz and that kind of expressionism, being very expressive is the whole, but at the same time being rooted in the blues, being rooted, the work songs. And you get me started on getting into history of the music, but that's that's a work song they used to do, as they working and they chopping wood or they hitting trying to lay down the track for the railroad. There's a lot of black folks that ding and sang along, singing along to that, and so being part of that tradition and plugging into the vibration of the ancestors through the music, to me, it's the easiest way. The easiest way you can plug into the ancestors is through sound and vibration, but it takes years, discipline, practice, and meditation, musical meditation to get to that, to be able to do that. But a lot of the things I've manifested in my life and things that I've been able to channel is because I've removed the obstruction, and it's also mental obstruction, because a lot of people also got the mental obstruction. They won't let certain things happen. They won't let that kind of creativity, because they're self-conscious, or they got an ego thing, or they don't want to look, there's not a lot of people that I know that probably would have made that speech with a sea of people looking at them up on stage. Just like, there was people out there eating ice cream, like looking at me like they wanted to, really, it isn't know what was going on, because I'm talking about, get off the cheese and the ice cream and all that kind of stuff, and they're sitting out there like, but I love that, man. That's fun to me, that kind of, because it's positive, makes you think, makes you feel something, and you might not like what it makes you feel, because it's going to demand that you look internally and see things about yourself that you might not want to see. And that's one reason why it doesn't get super duper popular, because it's that kind of vibration. And I find that lots of times the best stuff has that type of that kind of effect, where you don't really get a lot of popularity, but the people that have the ability to reach out to it and plug into it get the benefits from it. And that's with all art. Art's not usually going to find you. You have to go find it. But when you do, then you will get the benefits of it. That investment that you make. Ultimately, what it does is it raises your vibration and your frequency up out of whatever it was at. You raise your vibration, raise your frequency. And as you raise your vibration, it makes it easier to practice the Mucus diet healing system. And that's why, for me, music and art and self-development study, it was a crucial part in my success with practicing the Mucus diet up to this point. Because I don't know boredom. I don't, unless I'm have to listen to somebody. And even then, I find ways to not be bored. Because believe me, I've been through a lot of lectures with professors that are not as animated as I am, and they're very monotone and just the stuff. And I found ways to make that interesting. but there's always something to work on. There's always something to create. There's always somewhere to explore, whether it's on the astral planes or it's in your backyard or it's in the woods. There's so much. That's what's great. That's the greatness of our environment. And so I live in a world where I don't really come into contact. I come into the contact rarely with, the face mask reality. It's there and I have to deal with it sometimes, but I don't live in that. I'm not there. That's not where I'm at. And that fear, all the COVID fear, and I just don't deal with that at all. It's the way I used to look at it is, in modern times, we all of a sudden have internet and 24/7 news cycles, so we can be exposed to so much drama and chaos that we're not psychologically built for that, to be able to get all this stuff, man. That is people, no wonder. You add terrible diet on top of all of the chaos that's coming at you from the news and marketing and people selling you doing this and that, and it's just total chaos. No wonder adrenals are shot. People getting panic attacks and people getting heart failure. I won't call it an attack, heart failure and strokes and all of the various ailments. There's no mystery. There is no mystery. But I'm always an advocate. Be passionate about something. Find whatever it is that's productive. And when you can align yourself with your passion and practicing the Mucus diet healing system, it works together. There's a synchronicity where, the diet is helping and is cleaning you out, and then you're working on something that you love to do, and you just this upward spiral. And it makes doing what you love to do makes practicing a diet easier. And I know not that you might not be in a situation like that where you're able at this moment to be there, but it has to be a priority. And then what? What am I going to say? What word starts with T? Then it's about transition. Because once it's a priority, then it's about transition. And the transition is the action step, taking action, and you start to transition toward that life to where you can do, or at least more so be able to do what it is that you're really passionate about. And so that is important. And one of the things that's humbling about showing those old videos, to show the humble beginnings. And we had to work for everything, everything that's happening. We work for that. And I'm definitely entangled. We work for everything that we've been able to do. And the point was that the passion was there, that whether there was 2 people in the audience or there was 200, it didn't matter. We're going to do what we're going to do. We're going to play the music that we're going to play. We're going to make the art that we're going to make. It's not predicated on a bunch of people validating it. We like it, and we're going to do it. And that's the attitude that you got to have. That's the attitude you got to have about the Mucus diet healing system. That's why we've been successful. That's why artists tend to be the ones that are most successful with the mucus diet. Traditionally, it's hopefully we're changing as more people get exposed to it, but the kind of mentality you have to have as an artist is that you're not trying to fit in to this thing out here, this face mask reality. You're not trying to fit into that. You as a creator know how to create your own world. And whether it's a musical world or a paint world. Now, the other thing, and I was thinking about this earlier today, that Mucus diet helps with is for many artists and musicians, because they have that frequency and that open space, and they're bringing in these vibrations and putting it out. But if their body is constipated and filthy, even if they're able to cleanse and unobstruct a certain part to be able to manifest some really great art, a lot of them can't handle it. It burns them up. Their body can't handle all of that vibration that's coming through. And so when they stop doing what they're doing, they look for stimulation because they can't handle that like the come off. And then you see the drugs, and there's all the stories of the musicians with the drugs and the artists and all the different forms of stimulation outside of their art that they did. And you get musicians some of the most influential musicians that die at the age of 34, the age of 40, or the age of 36, and they burned themselves up because they didn't have the physiological piece together. But with the physiological piece, you are able to channel that vibration, and at the same time, you can have these periods of stamina that's unlike, you're not burning yourself up with that type of stamina. It's actually cleansing you and making you better. That's why when Brother Air doing the long fast, and playing music for hours, that's part of what we're trying to bring to the table, as opposed to trying to say, look, I bench press 300 pounds. I'm on a plant-based diet. Like, instead of that kind of attitude, we're saying we just created some art that nobody else made and played nonstop for 6 hours straight or for 8 hours straight. Let me bring the guys out of the weight room and see if they can do that. Can you make art for 8 hours straight without a break? That's the kind of vibration that you get into that's in line with Arnold Ehret's example, where he had fasted and then could do a bike ride for, do all kinds of physical feats of strength in that space, existing on fruit or existing, doing fast or whatever. That's part of that tradition that we aspire to, through the art. So that's my response to that, musical creativity. So in short, yes. No. But I really appreciate the question. And let's revisit the chat yet again. Let's see here if I can find it. I am, bear with me, I set this up and I'm still getting used to where everything is at. And, this is the first time ever that I've activated the ability to give the donations. If anybody wants to throw us a tip in the tip jar, really appreciate it. And I'll read whatever you write on here. We'll feature it as we are doing right now. Let me Let me bring this up so we can see it. So this was Janice said food pyramids, laughing at the video. Everything is backward in this world. Simplicity is the key. Thank you, Prof, for your work. P.S. Have you watched Tenet? Tenet, I haven't watched Tenet. I'll have to look into that. But thank you so much for the tip, the donation. I really, really appreciate that. And let's see what else has happened since I started talking. We got, and by the way, soon, maybe I might hold it until next weekend. I'm going to do a live stream of what I eat in a day on the Mucus Diet Healing System. I've been asked to do a video like that for a long time, and I've already created a PowerPoint presentation because I can't just do it regular like everybody else. Like, here, this is what I eat in the afternoon, and this is my, I can't do that. I got a whole sophisticated analysis, and basically what I'm doing is I'm going to track not year by year, but groups of years, and what a mucusless day would be like, what a mucus lean day would be, what a fasting day would be, and approximately what percentage of each one of those areas I would be. So for instance, early on in my practice of mucus diet, I would maybe, I can't remember I'd have to look because I sat down and figured all these percentages out, but I would maybe be mucus-free like 40% of the time or 50% of the time, and mucus lean 70% of the time, or not 70%, but like 40% of the time. And, so I basically tried to create a way to explain what I eat in a day, not what I eat in a day in year 18, but what did I eat in a day years 1 through 3 or 1 through 5? What did I eat in a day from years 5 through 10 on average? What did I eat in a day 10 through 15? Because it changes, and it has changed, and that is the glory of the transition, and that's what I don't see anybody teaching or talking about and showing in that kind of way, where you understand that it's going to be normal. That's why it's going to be normal to change, where what you eat in years 1, 2, and 3 is not going to be what you eat in years 10, 11, and 12. It's not going to be how you eat in 20, 21, 23. It's about transition. So in refinement, in constant refinement over the years, but the refinement can happen slowly. Even though that's all relative. The time is all relative. So it's not really slow, but we think it is because we want things right now so much. We want to just do everything right now. And Richard says, you really can't, what are you talking about? Last call, the body is an air oxygen engine. That's for real true. I would love to hear more about that. Yeah, V equals P minus O. That's the equation that Professor Arnold Ehret brought forth into the world, manifest into the universe. Vitality equals power minus obstruction. When you remove obstruction, then, and this is just a law of the universe that you can observe. If you put in a car, if you put a bunch of sand in the gas tank, how far is that car going to go? The car doesn't run on sand, it runs on gas. So in the body, what's the body run on? The fundamental fuel for the body is air. Now you've been told by Captain Crunch and by Tony the Tiger that that protein is your primary thing you run on, and iron and calcium and the nutrients of the vitamin, that's what you run on. But that you run on air. Air is premium in your world because if you don't breathe, you stop, you don't get oxygen for 5 minutes unless you're David Blaine and you've worked your entire life to be able to go 20 minutes without breathing. For the average person that doesn't work on that, you can't go 5 minutes without breathing. And so air is premium. And even if you did, there's a certain point where you're not going to be able to keep going. So that even those, there's some really interesting case studies where people didn't get oxygen for 40 minutes. David Blaine was actually talking about that on an interview he did, I think on the Joe Rogan podcast recently. I caught some of that interview. He was talking about somebody that had, I think they had, maybe in the chat, if you know what I'm talking about, you can say the exact who this was, but someone survived being under the ice or in the water for over 40 minutes or something. And so, yes, it's possible, but eventually you're going to have to breathe, and most people can't go 5 minutes without air. So it's the most important thing that we're dealing with. And it's the thing that we think about the least, or most people. And so air, but it's not doing breath exercise. If you're eating a bunch of crap, but you're trying to do your yoga breath exercises and, get in tune with the universe that way, well, you're not going to get in tune because your intestines and your colon are a graveyard for little animals or big animals. And so you're not going to be granted that in that kind of situation. So, but when you clean that out and all of a sudden oxygen can function in your body as it is meant to, then it opens up a whole different world. A whole different world of possibilities becomes open to you going down that road. And so V equals P minus O is the formula of life, but also the formula of death, as Professor Arnold Ehret so eloquently stated. Richard says, it baffles me that people find outlandish to eat fruit meal rather than fake McDonald's food. Yeah, I mean, the mainstream hasn't started that transition yet, that level. It's still at the plant-based level. It's trying to move. It's doing its little Impossible Burger, having going to KFC and taking Burger King to court because you thought their stuff was vegan, and you find out that they prepare the plant-based burger in the same oil and the same fryer or the same griddle as the other burgers. And then, but if you can ask them to separate it, and so then I guess they would put it in a microwave for you. So that's made with love. So we got a lot of work to do, a lot of transitioning that has to happen, but it is what it is. And what's going on, Oliver and Anna from Seattle? What's going on? I hope you guys are okay out there with the fires and the smoke and not being able to breathe. Well, my heart goes out to all of you out there dealing with that on the West Coast. That is rough. I would definitely, I'd be in my car, I'd be gone. I don't know. Unless there was something really, really holding me there, I would be not there. It'd be time for a vacation, jump in the car, jump in the van. We going somewhere away from all that smoke. Richard said there's a French vegan community, but Ehret Works here is pretty much non-existent. There is a publisher that regularly published a pocket edition of Mucus' Diet Healing System, but organic produce is or products are cheap here, and probably saying is not cheap, I would imagine. Said that there was a naturopath that promoted Arrett, but disavowed him on the blood theory and the air gas engine. Well, yeah, that's pretty typical. That's fairly, it's pretty much how that goes. Is it's usually going to be who, those folks that are like, yeah, we like Arrett, but we just like this part. We just like what he said about that, and they take that part. So it's pretty common. The tire key. Yeah, that thing, that's craziness. Let's see here. Portland, Oregon. What's going on? Attraction P. And Janice said, I did a 90-day juice fast. After that, I just could not enjoy the previous diet anymore. It was still tasty, but I felt ill effects a lot more. I just got tired of that and eventually dropped it all. And that's what happens when you start to really transform your physiology. You can't go back, and that's why I always say transform your physiology to the point where you can't go back. So Nikado Avocado, if he would have transitioned properly, it would have been absolutely impossible for him to go back to eating a standard American diet, but he's doing an enhanced standard American diet, as I call that, the mukbang and that kind of thing. And Anna, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the donation, Anna. And that's cute. Got the little cute music guys there. Sham says, so if the body has a bad odor naturally, could that be mucoid plaque or a constipation of some sort? Thank you, Professor Spira. So, Sham, body odor can be a number of different things, and it depends on what type of odor we're talking about, where it's coming from, and what the people are eating. If you're talking about folks that are eating dead animal flesh and they're not cleansing, then there's going to be serious odor there. And there's a death stench that you can't smell as long as you're eating dead animal flesh. You can't smell this death stench. And I didn't smell it until I practiced the diet for a while, and my nose cleared up to the point where I could smell so good, which was like a blessing and a curse, because then I was getting around people and all of a sudden I could smell everything. It was terrible. It was just like this death smell all the time. And so now, I don't know, over the years I've learned how to kind of avert my nose and ignore it somehow, and I don't get I was doing social distancing before it was a word when it came to that, where I'm just like, ooh, okay. I even wore funny enough, in college there was a period where I actually wore a face mask. People thought I was nuts. They're like, why are you wearing a face mask? I'm like, you really want me to tell you? Because I can't handle death stench. And so if I got around someone that had that smell, I'd put it on, and I wouldn't say nothing. I'd just be sitting there, man. People would just, what is wrong? Who is this guy? And it's like, because it was rough. But as far as if you're talking about somebody that's practicing the diet or has cleaned himself out, so that really old, like the black tar mucoid plaque and that level of slime, all that stuff is out of there. You've done some good cleanses, some good lemon juice kind of stuff going in both directions. Then you get to just the bacterial odor that's going to happen with most people. So under your arm, it's not that you're having this bad stench come through your glands. It's really being emitted through you. At that point, as the bacteria builds up, there can be a little bit of odor with that. And with some people, it's worse than others. But I stopped using, when I started practicing diet, I stopped using the the deodorant stuff that they have at the stores, and I got into some of the natural deodorants, but they weren't great. And then I had watched some documentary on old British manors and like where lords would live and that kind of stuff. And they had this little part where these women would take, and it was a delicacy. You had to be rich to be able to have lemons back in these days. But the high class women on the compound would get lemons, cut the lemons, and they would just take the whole lemon and rub it. I just realized that the little guy playing, that's a lemon. That's cute. Lemon and is that a lime down there? I like that. But they would take the whole lemon and then put do it under the armpits, and that was how they would kill the bacteria and deal with the odor. And I put that together real quick. I was like, man, let me try that, because, like I said, the natural stuff that wasn't working. I didn't like that, and so I combined what they did. The first couple tries weren't good because I actually did what they did in the video and took the lemon, and then that irritated my skin. Actually putting like the lemon rind and just putting that on there and wiping on my skin, that was too harsh. But then I squeezed it onto a paper towel and dabbed it on there. And then the key was I brought in the air baths that Arnold Ehret talked about, the concept of the air bath. So I kept my arms up for about 1.5 to 2 minutes to let that lemon juice dry on my pit, and it would take care of whatever smell was happening, whatever was going on there. It would take care of that. And that was a revelation. And then to this day, that's what I use under my armpits, is a little lemon juice. And if I notice that maybe there's a little bacteria or something that might be getting in other crevices anywhere, lemon juice. That's like the tonic that deals with everything. And that's a question that I get quite a bit these days, and women will ask a question about like the candidas and fungal kind of questions, and that lemon juice is a monster. I mean, that really, and we do have members of the community that have used lemon juice internally in the woman reproductive organs. And Takora, you had to consult her about the proper proportions and that kind of stuff. I'm not recommending that just right off to everybody like that, but I'm just saying there are remedies and there are natural and naturopathic things that's coming from this paradigm, that's coming from this consciousness. So yeah. Let's see here. We got the Kip lifestyle. Oh, thank you so much. And I love this the lemon. That's so cute. Thank you so much for the donation, is greatly appreciated. So let's get to this final question. That was the planned question for the day. And Anna just said, also steaming the vagina with lemon peels. That's interesting. Yeah, steaming. Huh. Yeah. See, there's stuff. There's stuff to do where it keeps you out of putting on these pharmaceutical creams or these pharmaceutical pills or all that kind of stuff that just takes you down this rabbit hole of despair and dead ends, and chaos. And so it's not medical advice, I'm just saying. This is my opinion. So, all right, so this is a question that I get all the time. It says, can skinny guy gain weight and muscular physique on the mucusless diet and training? So the initial response and how we normally respond to this question is that we don't focus on or really deal with weight within the context of the mucus diet healing system. When you're really practicing the system, we understand that as your body goes through various levels of elimination or detoxification, and you're really practicing the transition the way that you should be, there's going to be a little bit of, or you might get fairly slender. Then a period you might gain weight. And I'm not talking about a yo-yo situation. I'm talking about over years of time where you can have a fairly a physiology that's fairly lean and slender. Then you might pick up some, start building some muscle back up. And when you do, or picking some weight back up, when you do, that's plant-based at this point, and it's based on the vegetables, and it's a different physiology. You've literally transformed your physiology at that point. Now, patience is important when you start talking about that, but also when we talked earlier about being an artist and letting go, and letting whatever's supposed to happen with your art, in this case with your body. So what a lot of us do, we practice a diet, we just say, okay, whatever's going to happen, let's go on this journey, and not try to impose our will onto what's going on. And so that's like I said, the initial response. Technically, I could tell you certain things to eat that's within the context of the mucus diet that would help you gain weight or maintain, that kind of stuff. And I don't like doing that unless it's a situation where somebody they're in a dangerous situation, they need to slow down, they need to gain some weight. Now, I'll tell you what I did do. There were some people that were trying to be raw foods, and they were real slender, and they hadn't transitioned. So I had to transition them into larger meals over time. But it was always about the transition. But what I do want to share with you here, just as a case study, is an example of a Hall of Fame athlete that talks about the mucus diet healing system on a popular show, and he is looks pretty good, and he's got muscle, and nobody is gonna mess with him. So let's see. Let's play this clip here.
Thing to do with anything else in the world besides that. So anyway, check this out. Great clip. Here you go.
I feel good though, man. I feel really, really good, and it's a level that I didn't expect it. I didn't expect to feel this good. I didn't.
So this is Rashad Evans, who is a UFC Hall of Famer, Ultimate Fighting Championship. It's a mixed martial art. He's a mixed martial artist. He's on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's giving it up to Professor Arnold Ehret on a platform. Millions of people probably watch this. So that was like cool, super cool. So all right. So just to give you that background.
Really, really good, and it's a level that I didn't expect it. I didn't expect to feel this good. I didn't think that a diet can make me feel this good.
What is particularly makes you feel so good? In what way?
My energy. I have an energy level that it's really hard to say. It kind of feels a bit supernatural in a bit, like I feel energy. Like I feel like my body's energy. It's kind of hard to say. It's kind of like not hard to say. It's kind of hard to describe without looking crazy. I read this book, The Mucusless Diet, and it's by Dr. Arnold Ehret. And this is like in the early 1900s. He came up with this book, and he had some stomach issues. And it was, not until he was fed up and was on he was starving himself. and then he realized he had some really, it kind of changes his stomach situation. So then he started looking into diet and nutrition. And this book is talking about pretty much, the role of food in your body and what it does and what causes mucus and what doesn't cause mucus. And, through understanding the mucusless diet and just reading it, it just gave me a different hold on understanding, like a different understanding of why I'm doing this, and it became to me deeper than just like, oh, I can't have this because, the diet says I shouldn't have it. It says I can't have it because, this is going to cause inflammation. I know the deeper reason of why, so it's easier for me to avoid the pitfalls of bad food, For me, it was something that my body just was like, it's about time you started to treat us the right way,
Interesting.
And the crazy part about it is the fact that now I train less, but I can train harder. Like now I can do sparring sessions where like I spar for like an hour straight.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm sparring at a pretty good pace. Like I'm not like it's smart sparring. Like we're not like bashing each other in the head and shit like that. We're being smart about it.
What type of foods are you eating? Like how are you? What is it? Like give me a typical meal for you.
Typically speaking, it all depends on the time of the day. But I don't eat in the morning. I fast up until noon or until like 1 o'clock, and then my first meal.
Are you on like a 16-hour, 14-hour
like
intermittent
16,
fast?
Like 16, intermittent fast, and then once I eat, I usually eat like I'll come home and I'll eat, maybe like a hearty shake that I make of fruit. I usually take that. That'd be my first meal, and then the second one would be a little bit more hearty. It'd be something with vegetables and maybe some potatoes or something, so it's a little bit more hearty. And then I'll have another hearty meal, like a vegetable-based meal at nighttime. And then I'll usually be done for the day.
Are you using any protein powders, pea protein, hemp protein, anything along those lines?
No, I don't use any
just
protein
vegetables,
powder.
Raw vegetables.
Yeah, just raw vegetables. Raw vegetables and fruit.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I don't really feel like I have a need for it. Like I feel like my muscle mass is pretty good. Like I don't feel like I'm too skinny or like I'm not gaining any muscle. I feel like I can gain muscle, and it's just been working for me. And
so basically, you just eat to feel good, like however it makes you feel good.
Yeah, however.
And you've got it down now. Like what kind of foods. It's the supplement thing gets strange with vegans. There's a lot of folks that they're mixing a lot of different dietary yeasts and a lot of different powders and different things and blending these different things, and it's some people don't like the way that feels when you're eating like that. But it sounds like what you're eating is much more whole food based.
Yeah, mine is just whole food based. Like a lot of the foods that I became actually a good cook now because of the fact that I had to learn to cook my own food. My wife, she was busy becoming busy on her own, doing her own thing, so she wasn't able to cook for me like she was before. But then I learned myself, and through learning myself, it just completely just like took the shackles off of me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
All right. So there you go. Very.
Yeah. So I'm watching these clips of. Hold on, I'll cue this up for a second. This highlight reel of Rashad. Now, of course, this was before the diet when he was out there busting heads. But so a couple things there where he was talking about some couple people were criticizing, saying, oh, he said he had stomach trouble. Well, Eric did have stomach trouble because everybody has stomach trouble, colon trouble. What did Eric say? All disease starts in the colon. So that's the foundation. Technically, he had Bright's disease, or what they called Bright's disease, inflammation of the kidneys. So, yeah, details there. But I thought that was remarkable that he, talking about the Mucus Diet Healing System on Joe Rogan podcast, one of the most famous and popular podcasts, that's big, and they posted up a link. There's a website that basically tracks all of the Joe Rogan shows, and for that episode, they linked to my version of the Mucus diet on there, and because there was like several different books that were mentioned, and so they had the picture of it and the link there. So that was cool. So basically, I showed that just to show you that he's a professional athlete. He's retired, but he still works out every day. I mean, these guys, they keep working out, they keep sparring and training and that kind of stuff. And he was, as his testimonial, he's saying that it's easy. He's got more energy. It's easier for him now to put on muscle if he wants to, and he doesn't not having them problems. And so it's possible. I don't advise people to fixate and focus on that. I understand that feeling of that tendency of wanting to do or be what you're not. So if you're overweight, you want to shed the pounds, and you want to try to shed the pounds and get the leaner body. When you're really slender and skinny, then you want to try to gain some muscle and get bigger. My thing is, it's like, yes, you can use, especially go into transition lessons and really look at some of the different items in there and the combinations. And if you go on the mucus lean side of things, it's possible. The thing is, though, what does your body need, and what does your body really want you to do? See, for me, there was a period of my transition where I wouldn't, like there was a long time I didn't want to go into the gym and work out and that kind of stuff. I wanted to strictly do natural exercises, just walking, practicing. I could walk for miles and miles with no problem. And I mean, I still can do it. But I mean, but back then it was something that I couldn't do previously. But now at that point I could do that kind of stuff. That was new for me. But I needed a time to detox myself from working out, because the way that I used to work out was unhealthy for me, especially early days of practicing a diet, because I didn't know how to not work out like a varsity athlete when I went into the gym. And so when I did work out in those early days of practicing a diet, I messed myself up, because I worked way too hard, and I was sore for like the next 4 days, and so that wasn't it. But I noticed that my body didn't need that. It just needed some real base, and plus, I was younger too, but I just needed just to keep moving, and so I just focused on the diet and just focused on fasting. And there was periods where people close to me and loved ones thought that I was getting too skinny, and then I tuned everything out. I was just focused on the Mucus diet, and I knew that at some point in the future I'd gain weight back. And so anyway, I mean, it's just one of them topics. It's just kind of strange. We still figuring out the best way really to even discuss it and put it into a pedagogical kind of frame where you understand, because I just advocate for a paradigm shift so that the focus is not on the vanity thing that you have received from the society. Because what tends to happen on the Mucus diet is, if you really, really get deep into it, your value system will change, and then change again, and then change again. Just when you thought the value, because that's what a lot of people are trying to hang on to, and that is something that can hold you back when you're practicing a diet. So to answer the question, yes, you can, depending on your physiology and what point you are at with your transition and detox. Yeah, it's possible to work out, and Brother Air used to play. He works out, and he used to play basketball every day for years, up to a certain point in his practice, and hard, basketball with the meat and the potato crew out there with them, and he's fasting and drinking juice, and he's out playing them. And so, but there was a point where that ended for him, where he went through something. He had to put that down, focus on his physiology. And then when he came out of that particular period, he didn't have that stimulation to want to go and deal with that anymore. It's not that he couldn't have, he just didn't want to. That wasn't attractive anymore. And so my point here is be open to the transformation. Be open to the paradigm shift, the change in consciousness, and don't let that hold you back. If you go on the journey, don't be, if all of a sudden you start not feeling like doing something, or you notice that your mind is changing, I would advise or encourage to keep on pushing through, and don't be scared of changing values. Of your value system changing to the point where you're not valuing the same things anymore. It starts to shift around. And that's part of the journey. And you're really focusing on that physiological excellence, physiological liberation is the key. And I think what I want to do right now, just for a couple, it's just about, 30 seconds or 40 seconds. Back in this, kind of going through this nostalgic period, I found some old clips or some old ads that I had actually updated, but I want to play a couple of these just for old time's sake. So this next one, it was kind of like a movie trailer. I got this guy that had this sound in his voice, where I was like, in a world where such and such happens. And so take a look at this.
In a world where people needlessly die of preventable illnesses, one man's vision offers hope to humankind. Order Professor Arnold Ehret's annotated, revised, and edited mucusless diet healing system today.
So I think I made that was like 2015, 14 or 15. And I don't know, I just thought it was fun because, like, in a world where pus and mucus, that kind of thing. Then this one is, I come at things from a different angle. And so check this one out.
Now, I don't mean to gross you out, but what if I told you that you are eating foods that create nasty slime in the body? Certain foods that you eat on a daily basis can actually cause the slime to accumulate and make it harder for your cells to breathe. These foods are making you age faster and are tearing your body apart from the inside out. These wrong foods are leaving behind residues of nasty waste that are slowly but surely shortening your lifespan, lowering your quality of life, and destroying your vitality. The good news is, this waste can be eliminated naturally. Discover the simplest and most powerful natural lifestyle secret that has improved the lives of thousands. Introducing Professor Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet Healing System, annotated, revised, and edited by Professor Spira. You will learn how to naturally get rid of that annoying stuffing nose, soothe your terrible cough, melt away unwanted body fat, prevent dangerous health issues, and heal yourself of painful illnesses. If you care about your health, this is the most important book you will ever read. Visit www.mucusfreelife.com/revise-mucusless-diet to get your copy right now while supplies last.
So yeah, it was bringing back memories, going and looking back at all those from the good old days back in the. Man, it was deep. I mean, those were some deep days because there was nobody was interested in the mucusless diet. I mean, you just had a few people that had heard about it, a couple people interested in it, but it was kind of rough out there, and they were just into other things, and it was a hard sell, but it is what it is. Kept on pushing it. That does remind me, if you are interested in the books, there's links down in the description if you want to get our whole catalog of books that they showed on that little ad. Or if you just are new here, you want a little bit of information about what the mucusless diet is and get a couple recipes and some menu planning, down below, look for the 5 free recipes link. Click that link and learn how to remove pounds and pounds of waste from your system in a fairly short period of time. When you really start practicing a mucusless diet and you start removing pounds of this uneliminated fecal matter and the slime and this stuff out of you, and you might be walking around thinking everything is great and you feel good, and I'm telling you, you start removing this waste out of your gut and you are going to feel better. You're going to feel a lot better. Let's see. Levi says, what's the best thing for creaky or stiff joints? Been fruitarianism, juicitarian on and off for years. So, I mean, it depends on your history in just physiologically and what latent illnesses that you might have. But if that sounds like that's kind of your thing, depending on, sometimes I would advise to take the step back, to not be as aggressive with the diet. And I know now you're used to it. You've been in that mode for a long time. But in a lot of cases, people stepping back, even to like cook mucus-free, and I know it might be not something you want to do if you've been in that raw mode. But there's definitely been people that I've helped that has had some of those kind of issues. And just by sort of hitting the reset button, when you step back like that, and I don't really like that term because it's not stepping back. Everything is moving forward. But in terms of this, it's like learning how to take your foot off the gas, hit the brake a little bit, then let it cruise, hit the gas again. And I've seen cases where, similar to you, where they've really been hitting the juices real hard, the fruit real hard. Then they break that up a little bit, get a little bit of some salads with some strategically placed cooked vegetable items, and it allowed the body to kind of relax, and a lot of that some of that pain went away, some of that joint pain, that kind of stuff would subside. So there's that kind of element, because I know that the word on the street in some circles now is to just keep fasting, to just keep on plugging through until everything is perfect. And I don't recommend that, because Eric didn't recommend that. Eric recommended, you get in there, do as much work as you can while you're in there, but then back off. Have those periods where you back off and find that comfortable plateau point, and all is good. So that's the diet side. On the other side, I don't know if you have doing stretches regimen, but definitely the older you get, as I'm finding out, it's definitely good to be stretching as much as you can, every day. The more I stretch, the better I feel. And so definitely the stretches. And, I don't formally promote, there's in the field of like chiropractics, and you get into some of the different massage and the chiropractic. One day I'll make a video on that, because there are things that I've studied there, but it's outside the realm of classical mucusless diet and that kind of thing. So there's some naturopathic things there that I only talk about in one-on-one situations where I know people really, really could use that. But it's not regular. There's like some alternative chiropractic methods that I know about that aren't very popular. It's not what you see on TV where they're like cracking people's heads and that, doing that kind of stuff. Now, some you might do that or might be a chiropractor again. At this moment, I'm forgetting the name. There's like it's the ones where they use the adjuster tools and that kind of stuff. But that's some things. But that could be something to look at. That when you start to, because that's when I talk about strategically bringing in other naturopathic modalities as needed, and when they are rational, there can be a lot of benefit to that. And there's even a couple other things that I don't even want to talk about on here yet, because there are some interesting modalities that are out there. But as far as that goes, like I was just saying there, maybe consider taking a step back and definitely, if you're not already doing it, stretch, get some good stretches in, every day, and then let your body. Because what actually happens when you take that step back, the next time you fast, sometimes it'll take care of it at that point. So you take that step back, then whenever a couple weeks later or however long, you give yourself a chance to be in that mode. When you come back and you fast again with the liquid, it can sometimes heal that kind of stuff, and just the pain is gone. It's like, well, where'd it go? It's gone. So yeah. So that's my 2 cents on that. Richard says your diet evolves depending on your internal state, but blood type diet really does not make sense. Group A and B should eat more grains, O type more meat, etc. But human beings is human. Yeah. I mean, I don't agree with that. And I there's somebody I respect that is a brilliant naturopath that does some interesting, unique things actually in this field that we're talking about. One day I'm gonna talk about it, but I like to really, like I said in other videos, sometimes I'll study things for 10 or 15 years before I talk about it, before I bring it. And there's always things that I'm kind of studying and researching that on myself that down the road could help other people. But I just don't like to endorse things and talk about things until I really have a mastery of it in terms of understanding it and having really gone through it to be able to give a really comprehensive testimonial about what it is. And that's important to me because a lot of people don't do that. There's a number of people that they try something and they immediately talk about it. It's like, oh, they're trying something and it's on their Instagram story or it's on a YouTube video. And so I don't do that. Like, I try things and I keep it quiet until I know it's something that, like, I'm not bringing it into the table until it's ready, until I know that this is something that could really help a lot of people. But let's see. But yeah, but the point of that story was that this person he worked really closely with the person that had developed that book, the blood type diet. He was had worked up under him for quite a while. Let's see here. Alpha said, I just want to be me. I got to be me. Yeah. Caused me breaking into song and show tunes. Let's see here. The Twinkle Twinkle with the, yeah. Because back then I was thinking, okay, so what if there was just an innocent little girl talking about mucus, removing mucus from the body. I was like, that's pretty. You think that'd get some people's attention that wouldn't want to necessarily listen to me talk about it. They're like, oh, they'll listen to this little girl. Like, oh, what's that's interesting. Let's see here. Yeah, transition never ends. Yeah, someone had asked. There was a question. Someone, how long the transition takes. Oh, there, Keith. Yeah. Yeah, so the paradigm that we recommend is transition as lifestyle. And observing, there's a transition mindset that you can get into where you see the world as perpetually in motion, in transition. The seasons transition. You transition from a zygote into and unfold into a newborn baby, into a young child, into an adolescent, teenager. I mean, we've put these terminologies on there, but it's actually one long unfolding. There is no compartmentalized year. There is no 5 years old and 6 years old. There only is the transition. But seriously, it's just one long transition. You can't use your mind, as powerful as the mind is, but when the people that want to give all credit to the mind, I have to back them up and say, hold on a second. If the mind was as powerful as you say it is, then a young baby could use their mind to unfold their body, to cause them to, within a short period of time, maybe 2 weeks, they could unfold and grow from a baby into a fully formed adult with their mind, if the mind is as powerful as people say it is. And the transition doesn't matter. Obviously, no one's done that yet. There's no record that I know of a baby, a newborn baby, that has used their mind to speed up the growing process so that they could become an adult in 2 weeks, a fully formed adult. It takes 25 years, 26 years, depending on who you talk to, it takes time to unfold. That's the transition. Transition is not a decision. It's not a choice. It's the law. On this planet, in this time, for our species and every other species, transition is the law. So we can either decide to align with it, and when you align with the transition, then you remove the chaos from your life and your physiology and your body, because now you're aligned. You're in alignment with nature, alignment with the universe. Granted, because we've been so disconnected from the universe and doing things diametrically opposed from nature for so long, it's going to take some time to remove these deep obstructions from our body, mind, and spirit. So there is going to be a little bit of pain and suffering to pay reparations for the wrong that has been done. As I call it, physiological karma. I coined the term in my book, Spira Speaks. Physiological karma. For every action, there is a reaction. And just because there was not a reaction when you ate that pizza, you had your first bite of pizza when you were 5 years old or 4 years old, or there's things on the internet where people are trying to feed babies pizza. I was about to look at it. We'll go back to the... Whenever it was that you had your first pizza, you might not have had the reaction for that yet. You might not have paid for that physiologically. But now you got to burn off that karma. You got to burn that off. That's the detox process. That's what people don't like. They don't like how long that takes. They don't like what you got to go through. But that's why I also recommend using the methods of the transition diet, the mucusless diet, so that you can go at a reasonable pace and it's not as painful. The burn off isn't as deep. And when you start to examine and talk with some of these folks that talk about, they reached enlightenment and they went through these periods of walking through the shadow of the valley of death and that kind of stuff. It's like now we're trying to skip over a transition. Or maybe they've and they just got to a point where now it's that accelerated and we're in the realm of consciousness, but you're also dealing with folks that still have the physiological obstructions. And so it complicates matters when you're just trying to deal in one. My thing is the holistic. It's about the body, mind, and spirit. You got to align it all together. For the people that just think that they're going to do it all with the mind, I disagree. I mean, it's not a good idea to me. It's not that thing, because there's still physiological laws to deal with, and I just don't believe, me and Brother Air agree, as he would put it, that you don't get to mess up here. You don't get to break all the rules on this plane of existence and then when you die, graduate to something better. I mean, I agree with that. I agree with that. You might not. You might have. It's perfectly fine. Everybody have their own beliefs. I'm not trying to influence folks' beliefs on that level, just for my own karma's sake. But in my personal, just logical kind of thinking, you're not going to break all these natural laws here and then all of a sudden graduate just because you died. Good job, but that's the death culture programming and orientation that we've been given. You die and everything's better. That's death culture. D-E-A-T-H. What's that E-A-T in death spell? Eat. It's all, the evidence all there. The evidence is there, and that's our little tinfoil hat moment. But it's educational. You observe these things. You see, creature, eat. You see that kind of stuff in some of these words and concepts, and you start looking at etymology and starts opening things up, just different kinds of ways to look at things. But that physiological karma, to me, it helps put into perspective the eliminations. So one thing that I used to do when I would be going through a really, in those early days, sometimes you go through rough eliminations. It's not all roses and cherries. Sometimes you go through some stuff. And one mental, and this is your mucus-free mindset concept for the day or exercise. One thing that I used to do was, as I would be laid up and feeling terrible, and I would want to start feeling sorry for myself, but instead of doing that, I would imagine it almost kind of like a past life regression meditation, but I'm just more imagining. I don't know what it is that I'm plugging into, but I'm just imagining and getting in touch with this, the ancestral spirit. Maybe it's all in my head, but either way, I know that my bloodstream, if we go back, ancestors, that there's a price to pay for the wrong that has been done from generation to generation to generation. So as I'm laying there about to start feeling sorry for myself because I feel like crap, and I'm like, oh God, then instead of that, I stop myself and I say, hold on. at some point in that history, somebody's slitting the throat of an animal. Somebody's slitting the throat of another human. Somebody's eating animal. Somebody's drinking this animal milk. These things that are diametrically opposed. And that's one. We have generations and generations of that karma to burn off. So yes, this process takes a long time. And yes, it is a lifestyle. Because the question is, where do you want to take it? How far do you want to go? Physiologically, what's your goal? I don't try to impose a particular set of goals that everybody should have, at least not at this point. I let that be each person's own desire, what they want to do, what they want to achieve. And again, we offer the information and we make sure that that's available. So everybody starting from that same core information, the same core fundamental laws of the universe, transitional methodologies at work, fasting methodologies at work, with some philosophy that's helpful along the way getting started. But I would like people to aspire to do what they want to do. You know, Brother Air talks about his aspirations. You know, I have my own personal goals of concept of what I'm trying to do. Some people just want to feel better. Some people just want to heal their allergies. And it starts there. But no one's pressuring them to want more. But what happens is, as you start to clean, what's naturally starts to happen is you want more. You want to feel even better. It's like, dang, I changed that little bit and I'm feeling this much better. Can I feel even more better? And what you have to understand when you're going through those periods of the elimination is you burn it off, paying reparations. You say the word reparations is always going where you get to pay them when you go down this path. You know, so forewarning. But you're, in my estimation, you're going to pay it sooner or later. So you can either decide to control the payment, or they come and they foreclose on your house and kick you out of your body because you can't make the payment. That's how the tragedy. And people want to look at us like we're nuts because we're telling people to eat salads and make some fresh juice, have a little fruit. Why? To avoid what's becoming normal, people dying of strokes. You're dying of heart attacks at the age of 40, 45, 37. Humanity's not going to be able to keep this up. And recently there was an article, I'll probably make a separate video about it, but it was an article saying that black people are more likely to become vegan, which is it's interesting, but they did a big comprehensive study and they determined that on average, black, or at least African Americans, black people in America, were more likely to turn vegan than white folks or other nationalities. And so there's things to unpack there. That's interesting little tidbit. But yeah, let's see. I see another good question. AO asks, what's the best way to manage the mucus diet socially, at weddings, family outings, etc.? Seems it's the one meal slip up that drives me back. Yeah, that's one of those things, and I've talked about it in a number of different videos and the social stuff, but it's time to probably talk more about it, do some new videos on it. But yeah, that's where the attitude that I have, where I'm just this that hardcore attitude of I don't care what other people think about me, and I'm not trying to fit in. So I've never really fit in. I've made efforts growing up, as most people do when you're young and you want to fit in and you want your friends and that kind of stuff. But once I got into the Mucus diet, I was like, you know what? It sped up the process for me, just learning how to be who I really am and not try to impress everybody, where a lot of people, some people never get to that. Other people have to live a little bit more life and mature, and maybe in their 30s or 40s, they'll get to that part where they're just like, you know what, I'm going to just be me and this other stuff out here, whatever it is. But the Mucus diet for me accelerated that process to the point where I'm 21 years old and I know who I am at this point, and I don't care what other people think. So when I go into these social environments where normally there would be this social pressure to, oh, you eat this, and people offering you food and all this kind of stuff, I didn't have any kind of negative emotion about not, like, refusing it and saying no. Like, I had just programmed myself out of that physiologically and mentally. So on that level, on the emotional level, I didn't care. It was, people like, hey, here's, you want this and that? And then I'm like, oh, no, thank you. And I was always polite. I mean, my tactic was when people offer me stuff, I didn't like turn my nose up at it like I'm some, like vegan, whatever kind of mentality. I just be like, oh, no, thank you. But they would still press on like, oh, well, why? Like, why are you refusing my benevolent offer to you? And so that is a thing to deal with. But mentality for me was the key, just getting to that space of I don't care what other people think. So then planning and making sure you have what you need. So when I would go to weddings and go to other social events, I always have my food. I bring my fruit. If I'm bringing fruit, maybe if I'm in a salad mode or I don't change my diet because I'm doing this other stuff. So if I'm in a salad mode, then I make my salads on the go and I'll have a salad with me, or I have fruit with me, or maybe I have some juice. If I made some juice, have that available. Or when I used to do the nuts and raisins, have that, like whatever it was I was into, have that available. And would rarely, because sometimes they'll try to say, well, we have a vegetarian plate, or we'll do this and make it. And I just generally would be like, no, thank you. I just do my own thing. And the exception to that is sometimes I would have them bring lemon slices. Now that would mess people up because I would order lemon slices. Like, everybody's going around the table ordering a bunch of like big meals, and I'm like, can I get slices of two lemons? Just slice them up and just put them on a plate for me. Thank you. So, and that didn't last long because I just stopped that, going to restaurants and all those type of social events. I mean, I went years where, I didn't. There was a couple weddings, family of my brother, and a couple little things like that. But outside of that, I was usually if I was at an event like that, I was working as a musician, and then in that situation, I'm on stage and that kind of stuff, and it's an interesting statistic between me and Brother Air. All of the free drinks, if you could calculate all of the free drinks that we've turned down over the years being musicians, and that's usually something that's always offered, is, oh, you can have we got some drinks on the house, this, and it's like, okay, you know, and they like that's part of the payment is these drinks, and it's like, we don't drink, so you're gonna have to pay us. But so yeah, as far as the social thing, I would work on your inner game, you know, that inner steadfastness, and let go of and try to get beyond worrying about what other people think about you, you know, as much as you can. And it can be hard. I understand that it can definitely be a challenge because we're wired a certain way. You know, we're wired in a way to stay connected and to not be kicked out of the group. And so I understand that can be, it makes it challenging. You don't necessarily want to stand out and that kind of thing. But that's what I say. For me, it worked to my benefit that I don't care, and then I'm kind of a loner, and you know, and we saw the videos that I'm showing earlier, and that was kind of the point of that as an artist, where we were talking about something that no one was talking about publicly, and we're doing this big display. It's almost like a big art music protest of eating pus and mucus, you know, and that's that kind of thing. And that also helps strengthen that. Like that helped the art and channeling frustrations. That's another thing. Use the art to channel the frustrations, to channel the sadness of seeing loved ones suffering and not being able to do anything because they won't listen to you, and you have something that can help. I used to take that emotion, channel that right into the music. And the anger of we as a species put ourselves in this position. We got so far away, and you go through that period of anger. Channel that. So as you're moving up emotionally, and this is where you can get into the David Hawkins scale, which I'll look up just because I like talking about this. See if we can find one. Okay. Come on. Well. Can't see it. Move my head over here. So this concept of levels of consciousness, and I found that on my practice of the mucusless diet, and some of these you can't really see because of the color. Okay, I'll move my head back. So I found that, and this is just a model, it's a concept, a philosophy, but I found it to be fairly accurate, and I've found myself moving up over the years very consistently in these various emotional states. And usually it's really hard, and it's kind of hard to see these because of the colors. What is that? Why they use those colors? Can we see this one? Is it big enough? All right, I think this is a little easier to see. So as you move up with these emotions, and you kind of study these and think about, you know, how these feel, usually you are not going to see somebody get into the mucusless diet that's at the apathy level. It's very difficult. Not to say it doesn't happen, but really apathetic people, then they're generally not ready for the mucusless diet healing system. Yeah, they need it, they need it, but energy level, and you need a little bit more to get, so when if you're talking to somebody that's kind of apathetic and you're trying to get them into, get them to learn about the mucus diet, that's going to be a little rough. They're really just not ready. And what's happened to me years ago was I would talk to people like that and try to introduce them to the mucus diet. And this is when I was still learning how to even talk about it and that kind of stuff. But emotionally, they would bring me down, and it would just drain me emotionally. And so I stopped doing that, and I developed a whole different way to approach people and talk about the mucus diet to create that boundary and not even try to deal with that, because I was talking to a lot of people. And now that in retrospect, I'm like, man, those folks were apathetic. I wasn't even never going to work. But and you see, there are people that get into the mucus diet at the fear level. I don't recommend that. But if you can get there and you start really practicing and you dealing with the transition, then you can start moving up. Then you get to this desiring a better life, desiring to be well, that it's a higher frequency, just getting to that desire level, wanting more for yourself, getting up into this anger. That's what I was talking about, that anger. I was able to channel that. So each one of these, like, I'm channeling it into the art as it comes up. In those early years, there was anger that really came out as eliminations, like some bad stuff that came out in those early years. That's another part of the elimination. We talk a lot about the mucus and that kind of stuff, the emotional eliminations. I mean, I had some really, I'm talking like anger and scary anger that you don't want to be in the same room with me. We're talking 2005, early on, 2003, 2004. Once I went through that elimination, that was gone. Like that type of thing was gone. And then every once in a while, I might find, something that's coming through, some ancient emotional waste that's coming through. But early on, that anger started coming out. And instead of trying to hold it in, because society wants you to hold it in. So it says, oh no, don't do that in public, you shouldn't feel like that. You shouldn't feel like that. Who said? The man. The man said, you shouldn't feel like that. I'ma feel how I'ma feel. Don't tell me how to feel. And if you got to go through that elimination, do so in a way where you're not hurting other people or hurting yourself. And that's why that was my point with putting it into the music. So there's some music, like I could show you some stuff where I was really angry and show you that me channeling that vibration into the music, and that music can be scary. It can scare some people. It doesn't hurt anybody. No one was hurt. I wasn't hurt. And we got that out of there. And these are just, this is messages from the ancestors that are coming through the musicians and the artists. This is a message from the universe that if you're open to listen, then you can get the benefit from it and the information from it. But a lot of people don't get that. Then you keep moving up: courage, neutrality, willingness. And so now, and this is, where a lot of people are, and that's where you want to be at least, get up above this little level here, that courage. Because it takes courage to practice the mucus diet, and it takes a lot of courage to be public with it, or just be open about what you're doing to the loved ones and friends and family. And not in a way where you're necessarily trying to convince them, because that's a problem that some people have where they want to try and get validation from others by convincing them. And those are phases, where you go for like, okay, because just subconsciously it's like, okay, if I can convince this person that I love or that I respect of this, then it will reinforce my belief and my desire to want to be into it. And I just don't recommend that, because that can be emotionally draining. That's really more that little pride level and a little ego level and stuff like that. So you don't want to do that. You just want to be there. This is what I do. And you don't hide it, but you don't have to throw it in people's face. You just do what you do. And by you being you and you going through this process and this journey and this transformation, you are changing the world more so than you could in any other way, in my opinion, in any other medium, in terms of political office or staging a revolution to overthrow the government and impose a new government, or anything that you could think of. People talk, well, what about curing it? Well, we already got that. We got the answers. You don't like the answer, but we have it for illness and disease. And so we have that already. And so how can you transform the world? By transforming yourself and transforming your own physiology. And that's the key. And so you just keep moving higher: acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace. And so this is where I like to be at. So when people talking about I'm always happy. So and what I try to explain to people that they don't understand, even if it seems like I'm expressing something that comes across that is as angry to some people or comes across as whatever, I can tell you I'm feeling this. So you got to understand communication. Not all messages are going to come in a pot, like wrapped in a bow and happy and Barney singing and stuff. Sometimes you got to talk about slavery and the Holocaust and child enslavement and trafficking and rape. You got to talk about the worst of humanity, and you are got to be honest about what you're channeling. And so just because I talk intensively about a topic that needs an intensive emotion behind it, that doesn't mean that that the way I feel inside is down here. But it just seems like a lesson that some people need, because every time I start to get a little passionate about a topic that they think I'm angry about, then they start getting into the typing like, oh, settle down, you're so angry. It's like, no, this is a message from your ancestors to not be apathetic, to wake up, to have a little bit, because that's another thing. A lot of people, there's a bunch of people that think they're enlightened when they're literally down here in this apathy thing. And I get a lot of that when I start talking about like, oh, we're gonna, if you're gonna engage in the world at all, whether protest or whatever it is that makes you feel good, that where you're feeling like you're on the right side of changing the world and history, but there's always a couple people that's like, oh, you just don't do anything. You just gotta be. You just gotta ignore it. You just gotta let it just flow around. And to me, that's just the most apathetic, ignorant type of message. For coming from particular people that tend to say that. Because these are not people that have renounced society. See, when you become, and I love and respect renunciation and the people who are driven on that path. Most people aren't. But for the small few people that are driven on the path of renunciation, they're not going to send you a YouTube comment. They're not going to send you a messenger inbox or Instagram, whatever. There will be no comment from them because they don't have the internet, because they've renounced society. So you're not communicating with them. So and they have the potential to be up here, depending on what other work they're doing and their own physiological liberation efforts and that kind of stuff. But my point is that I guess I got a pet peeve of apathetic people who think they're enlightened. No, they don't want to do this work. Because when you start doing this work, you eliminate the grief, eliminate the fear, when there's something that scares me, I run at it. Like literally, I've programmed myself to do. There's something that scares me that shouldn't. I'm not talking about stuff that, jumping out of an airplane, or I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about things that shouldn't scare you, that do, certain social pressures or social conventions and etiquette, and those kinds of things. There's that you should not be scared socially. For a lot of things. And when I find those kind of weaknesses in myself, I run toward that and I start working on eliminating it. And when there is things that I find that I'm angry about, I release on it, I eliminate it. I'm always eliminating, and searching for these things. But the apathy people, they don't want to work. They don't do that. They don't want to find and explore their deepest fears, their deepest desires, and be honest about what they are. Because they want to think that I'm too good, I'm great, I'm way up here, I don't have desires, I'm asexual, I don't have nothing, I'm enlightened. You're apathetic. That's why you don't have no desire, because you're apathetic, not because you're enlightened. You didn't go through this process. You didn't get, unless you have those stories like I just talked about, where you've had these incredible emotional eliminations. I don't even hear, a lot of people don't talk about that. But unless you have those stories, you didn't work through this. You didn't eliminate, because I guarantee you, when you start the diet, you down here. And if you have done a lot of mental work or a lot of release work, and you've released on an emotional level a little bit higher, you start practicing the diet and really digging deep down into your intestines and bringing out this crap, man, that could take you right back down here to unresolved, uneliminated stuff that you didn't have a clue was still there. And that's what I love about the Mucus diet. I mean, I love that dynamic where it's true self-exploration, where you are going to get intimate with yourself. You're going to figure out who you are, or you're not going to be successful. So you have to get well acquainted with who you are. Forces you to do that. So all of that, eliminating that, and you just keep moving up. But it's a transition, and you can't do it overnight. So that's the therapy. It's the therapeutic process of permanent transformation and elevation, and that's what I'm all about. Everybody can do this. Everybody can elevate. Not everybody's going to have the desire, but not everybody's going to have that part together and the consciousness to want. But it's the direction that we need to go if we want to achieve peace one day. If we want to transform the world for our future offspring to have an opportunity, to have a chance, to have a world that they can breathe in, that they can transform. I mean, there's the potential is just so high. That's the one thing when you start going down this path and you see how great the potential is, and that's where you just kind of get like, man, there's so much potential in humans that's just squandered. There's so many things that could be fixed with just the elevation of consciousness, a little elevation, and there's some miraculous things that could be done in terms of just lifestyle and fixing things, but there's just a lot of constipation that has to be eliminated, and it just has to take time. As Skull Bones 4 says, nature's mills grind slow. Patience, and that's something that Mucus' diet really taught me. It was patience. I had to learn it. I was a very impatient person before the Mucus' diet, and the Mucus' diet helped me. And teaching, when I started teaching, patience. I had to learn patience, and that's a mucus-free virtue. I got a video, patience, on patience, mucus-free virtue. But let's see if there's any other. Oh, Anna said good night. Thank you. Well, thank you for tuning in. Tips for those going down the detox route for chronic disease. So because I could talk about that for a whole hour. the chronic disease and practicing the Mucus diet. So what I'll do, I'm gonna remember that, put that on my list of videos to talk about in the near future. Might do another one of these Q&As. If people like this and I get some good comments, and I might keep them rolling, keep it rolling, and I might turn this into even though it's Q&A number 13, also put it out as a podcast. So we'll see, but I definitely want to hear your feedback. If you're liking it, let me know. Hit the like button, share the video. We try to put some value into these videos, and I looking and I saw how people really did like those old Q&A videos and that type of me in that kind of dynamic and platform, and so that's why I was like, all right, well let's do that. Let's get back to the roots, the mucus-free life roots. So again, this has been a pleasure. I thank you guys for tuning in and the great questions. Everything was super positive over here in the comments. That's beautiful. I want to thank Janice and Anna and the Kip Lifestyle for the donations. Really, truly appreciate that. Again, if you're new, go down below, join the Mucus-free Life Insiders Club, get the 5 free recipes, or the menu, mucus-free menu planning introduction document, as well as my favorite top 10 mucus-free foods, all when you sign up for the Insiders Club. And if you want to cut straight in front of the line and get all the books, you can get all of the whole series. I'll just grab a handful of them here, but the whole series of Mucus-free Life books you can get for a low price. The cheapest that you can't get it any cheaper than what I have it in the offer down below. If you were to go on Amazon and buy each book individually, it would be a lot more than that. So if that's interesting to you, you can go down to that. And finally, if you're interested in our e-course, Mucus-free Life e-course, which is the preeminent e-course of the Mucus Diet Healing System, really the only one that I know about, and trying to take it back to the origins of the Mucus Diet Healing System, because the original book was meant to be a textbook for a course, and that is what we try to do with the e-course. And so we go through step by step, take you by the hand, go through each one of these lessons and really go in depth and analyze, break it apart. And when you come out of that, you really, really know and understand the mucus diet healing system and this cornerstone of naturopathy better than anybody out there. This is the cornerstone. This is where it starts, that naturopathy. And it is many of the tools in the mucus diet are a missing link in today's naturopathic community. And so I'm really trying to get these principles back out there where they belong and focusing less on the supplements, less on the concoctions, and more on using the food as the tools of transition, rational forms of fasting, colon irrigation, sunbathing, which, the sun is starting to get chilly here already, but sunbathing, exercise, breathing, breath exercise. So much work can be done there without spending thousands and thousands of dollars on all kinds of supplementary kinds of stuff. There's a lot that can be done there. So anyway, again, I thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm going to cue the music. Mucus-free is the way to be. If you like all the other videos on there, always, I really love when you leave the comments, share the videos. It just helps us spread the word. I'm really trying to grow the YouTube channel. I'm focused on that right now. New content, because it just seems like right now that's the space where I can reach the most new people and continue to educate and support and inspire the folks that are already in the community. And so, we're going to keep it rolling. Interviews, meetups, it's only going to go up from here. We're just going to grow and grow and grow. So I thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, peace, love, and breath.